In this video, I'm going to send some cards off to get graded, but before I do it, I'm going to pre-grade every card, and I'm going to put my skills to the test. I'm going to predict the scores, then we'll reveal the actual grades at the end. Am I going to nail it, or are we going to completely miss? Let's find out. Yo, what did it do, YouTube? Coming back to you with another one, and today, got something a little bit different than ripping. What I'm going to do is get a couple cards prepared to ship off to grade, and then I'm going to kind of go through my pre-grade process so you can see how I look at my cards and pre-grade them to determine if I'm going to send them out or not. More so, just understand I'm not an expert. I haven't been doing pre-grading a long time, so this is in no way a tutorial. This is just to kind of highlight how I do mine. So if you guys see anything that I'm not doing right, I could do better, do more, do less, let me know down in the comments so I can keep honing in my pre-grading skills and hopefully improve my gem mint rate. So what I've decided to do is I pulled 4 autos, and I wanted to pull autos to send off because I'm going to be sending these to mint authentication. Already got one grade submission back from them. Really loved those slabs. Really loved the grading process and the quickness of the process that mint does. So I wanted to send some autographs off to them to see if the turnaround time is going to be about the same, if it's going to take longer for the autographed authentication, and then how do the slabs look with the autographed grade added on. So what I've done is I've also built myself a pre-grade assessment spreadsheet because I'm a nerd, and I'm going to show you it and kind of show you how I'm trying to determine what I think the grades could be. And I'm trying to do it based off of how mint authentication does their grading. So they don't do a 0 to 10, they do 100 to, I think it's up to 1,000, and 1,000 is your gem mint diamond. So what my goal is with the spreadsheet is to track what my pre-grade assessment was, compare it to what I get back from mint authentication, and use that information to try to kind of hone in on how they're grading, how much they're taking grades down for certain things that might be found in the cards, so I can continue to get better at understanding my pre-grade assessment. And then I got spreadsheets for other grading companies based off of what I found out so far, how they graded, and like I said, just trying to get better with all of them. But what we got to send off is a Brian Thomas Jr. RPA jumbo patch. Beautiful, almost a 3-color patch, but has some nice texture on it. This one's out of 49, really cool card. And with it being a Jaguar, this is going to look really good, color matched with the slab. Then I got a DJ Giddens Green Wave Absolute Auto out of 50. This one I pulled out specifically because I know there's a couple things wrong with this card. I'm going to see how bad it is once we get it in the pre-grade assessment phase to see if I'm going to send this out. But I do want to send it in to see how some of the deficits with the auto might impact the auto grade. That's kind of a big reason why I picked this one. And then we have a Dan Marley Optic Auto. This one I pulled because this card looks amazing. It looks immaculate just from a quick look over. So I think this one has a chance of getting a pretty high grade. And then I got a 2025 Select Base Tedderola McMillan Auto. This one also looks very clean. And just looking at it real quick, I think the centering looks really good. So pick that one. Then also what I'm going to do for the second part is I got 4 slabs that I'm going to crack and send back for regrading to see if we can improve the grade. Some of them I'm not too concerned if I get the same grade because some of them have some slab issues and I want to get it re-slabbed anyways. So these are also going to go in with these cards, and we'll do that after this section. So let's go and work the Dan Marley first. I'll kind of just show you my process, and then from there I'll tell you what my pre-grades for the other cards are, and then when we get the submission back, we'll see how accurate it was. So the first thing I do when I start to try to determine if I'm going to grade a card is I just visually look at the card. Does the centering look okay? Do I see any major deficits on the surface of the card? Do I see any major deficits on the edge or the corners? Is there anything that's detracting the eye from the aesthetics of the card? Dimples, bubbles, anything like that. Do both front and back. And then if the just quick visual glance looks good, then we progress forward. So what I always want to do first is when I get a card ready for pre-grading is I want to give it just a good quick clean. This is just a fresh clean microfiber, nothing on it, no cleaning materials or anything. And I just want to make sure there's no smudges or anything on the surface of the card. So I take a microfiber, wrap it around my pointer finger, and with a gloved hand, just so I'm not adding any more oils or fingerprints to the card, I'm just going to give this a really quick rub down. Now you don't want to touch the auto or the sticker. I want to keep that sticker as nice on that card as possible. I don't want to pull the edges or anything. And then when I get to the edge or the corners, I work in to out, and I don't come back. So if you come back, there's a chance of you hitting the edge or the corner, pulling it up, causing damage. So in to out, and we're just giving it a real quick wipe down. And then we can check the surface of the card. All right, so that's good. I want to do the centering because I usually start with centering, because if the centering's going to be out of tolerance, then it's kind of pointless doing the rest of the pre-grade assessment. So I have this master centering tool, and the way you do this, I'm kind of zoom in for you guys, is you're going to line your card up in the tool. You want to get the four corners of the card as close to as possible being lined up with the tool. Once you're lined up, I usually push down in the center to flatten it out on the card, and then spread my fingers out to stop it from moving. Just give it another double check, we're still centered. And then you're going to measure left and right, and then you're going to measure top and bottom, and these are two separate measurements. So the black solid lines are odd numbers, the dotted red lines are even numbers. So when you're looking at your card, sometimes this is the hardest part about doing a centering assessment, is what's going to be your points of reference on the card to center it. With the words on the side of this graphic, it kind of pushes the graphic over. So this one's kind of hard to tell, like, do I measure from side of graphic to the words, or is it side of graphic to side of graphic? But the two consistent points of reference on this card is going to be the right side of the nameplate and the left side of the optic symbol. I think that's going to be the best reference point to determine centering on this card. So we'll get it lined back up. Nice and flat and even. So we're going to look on the left side. We're going to go to the left side of the optic, and we are sitting right on the second dotted line, and that's a 4. Now when we move over to the right, our right side of the graphic is also sitting on the dotted line 4. So that's going to be a score of a 4, 4. Now they do come with a checklist. Anything in red is going to be 9 or higher, and it indicates excellent centering. Anything that's in black indicates that it's going to be below a 9, and it's not recommended for grading. It's a 4, 4, so that's easy math. That's going to be a 50-50 centering. So left and right, from just my baseline knowledge of centering, is pretty perfect. Now we'll line it back up, and we're going to do top to bottom. So this one's a lot easier than left to right, because we're going to use just the top of the graphic, bottom of the nameplate graphic. And the top of the graphic is sitting on the second dotted line, so a 4. And the bottom of the graphic is also sitting on the dotted line 4. So we have a 4, 4 top to bottom. So this card should be a perfect centered front. Now we're going to move it to the back, and we're going to do the same thing. This one will be easier left to right, because we're just going to use the left and right side of the graphic line. And then I think probably the best way to measure this will be the signature series, the top of those words, and possibly just the bottom of the NBA Properties ink. Because I think the NBA logo man, even though it extends a little bit lower than this, I think that's going to be more so equal for centering measurement, if that makes sense. Probably doesn't, but in my ADD mind, it made sense. So we're going to measure this back up. And you know what I'm going to do too is I'm just going to measure the NBA logo man as well, just to see what the tolerance will be, in case that's what they're going to use for grading. So same thing, we got it nice and centered on the card, push down the center, spread your fingers out, and now we're going to look on the left side of the graphic. And the left side of the graphic is sitting right on the third dot or third solid line, so that's a 5. And we come over to the right, and we are just a little bit past the 5, probably closer to a 4. So this should be about a 5-4 left to right, which puts us at a 56-44. So we're red, we're still good left to right. Now, going top to bottom. We're going to check both just to see. Make sure we're lined up. It's a little bit different trying to do this with a camera. Okay. So on top of the signature series, it looks like we're sitting on the third dotted line, which is a 6. And then we are sitting at a 5 for the bottom of these words. So that's going to be a 6-5, which also puts us at a 55-45. That's a red. We are still within tolerance, good for grading. Now let's just see what the logo man would put us at in case they do put us on that. Or they use that to measure. Nice and lined up. Oop, shifted it a little bit. There we go. A little bit harder when it's kind of bowed to get it to sit flat. There we go. Okay. So top of the signature line is definitely sitting on a 6. So that third dotted red line. And the bottom of the logo man is sitting on a 4. So the second dotted red line. So we're 6-4. So even if they use the logo man, we're sitting at a 60-40. So we're still red and we're within tolerance for centering. And the good news is the front is better centered than the back. So, which I think has more weight when it comes to the grading process. All right. Next thing is we want to start looking at edges and corners. So you can use your naked eye. It's a little bit harder on white cards to see if there's any dimples or divots like you can normally see on a colored border. You'll see the white etching if the edges are bad. But what I got, and it's helped a lot, is this magnifying glass. And it's illuminated with different levels of illumination. It really helps look at the card in detail. This also has a pop-out stand that you can sit on your desk, and once it's up, you can just hold your card underneath it. Don't have to hold the magnifying glass. But I'm going to try to get this close up so you can maybe see it under magnification. You see when you kind of pull back, you can really get in on those corners. Left looks really sharp. Edge looks really sharp. Right looks sharp. Right edge looks really good. Right corner looks really sharp. Bottom edge sharp. Left corner sharp. Now let me shift hands real quick. Then I don't see anything crazy on that left edge either. Edges and corners look really, really good. And the one thing I really like about this magnifying glass is you have another magnification level. Probably hard to see on camera, but you can get really in on the edges and the corner. It looks a little bit out of whack in the camera, but it looks pretty clean to the naked eye. There we go. So really like the secondary magnification, really help get on the big details of the card. So once I've determined the front corners and edges look good, I take the magnifying glass and now I just go over the surface itself. And I'm looking for any small divots or bubbles that I may have missed in the naked eye, with the naked eye. And I don't see anything. This card just looks really, really clean. When I start doing surface as well, I take the other magnification and I start really kind of detailing into the surface, making sure I'm not missing anything. And I know about right, might not see it on the camera, but there is a very minute print line right here. And it's only going from the border to his shoulder. I don't see, right there. You can see it right there on the camera. Maybe I just had it. Nonetheless, small, very, very small faint print line, and it doesn't extend down. So that's the only deficit I saw under the magnifying glass. So front surface also incredibly clean. Now the autos, I have not pre-graded autos before, and I have not sent in any cards that have been autographed to be graded. So this is going to be guesswork for me until I get some cards back and kind of determine what I may have missed. Hopefully you guys can give me some tips and tricks on that. But what I've researched and what I understand is some big things is the cleanliness of the stride or the stride of the pen. And what I mean by that is there consistent pressure as they're signing. If there's inconsistent pressure as they're signing, if they go a little bit light or a little bit too hard, you're going to see changes in contrast of ink. You'll see dark ink, light ink, and maybe you'll see some separation within the ink lines itself, which we don't want. We want a very clean pen stroke. So under magnification, you can see this is just a very clean autograph. It's a very pretty autograph. It's a clean, consistent stroke. I don't see any breaks in any of the lines. What I do see though at the bottom of this letter, you can kind of see the difference in contrast. So the top part of this letter is darker than the bottom part of this letter. So I think that will knock down the grade a little bit. Probably just came off the pen ever so slightly, and that's why I didn't keep the same coloration or same darkness. And a little bit on the bottom stroke of the D as well. You can see a little bit darker, a little bit lighter. But other than that, I mean, the sticker itself is clean. It doesn't have any major divots or anything. I mean, there's a little dimple right here. And I don't know if the autograph has to be centered on the sticker. So if someone has that information, let me know. But it is shifted to the right on the sticker. So I don't know if that's going to impact the grade. So we'll see when this comes back. And then I just do the same thing on the back. So corners, edges, check it all. I'm not going to go into detail with this. We did on the front. And I've already looked at this card. I didn't see anything else other than right here to the right of his head as well. There's another print line that's extending from the border down to about the basketball. But it's faint. It's very hard to see with the naked eye. And there's just an ever so small dimple. I mean, I don't even think you'll be able to see it on the camera. But it is so small right in this little section. On the right light, you can kind of see it. So I don't think the back is definitely as clean as the front. But once I have my pre-grades done, I take my microfiber again. I just give it a once over. Make sure there's no dust, grime, or fingerprints that may have been left. Being careful picking it up, that I'm not digging into those edges. Now places like Tag, they do, I don't want to say a clean, it's not a clean, but they make sure there's no fingerprints or dust on the card prior to grading, which is nice. Places like Arena Club, if there is a fingerprint on the card, your fingerprint will be graded and it's going to detract pretty hard. But we have this clean, it's good to go. So next thing you want to do is take a nice fresh penny sleeve. Always a new penny sleeve. Be so careful not to rip these edges or corners. Watch that auto. And then because I have my non-gloved hand on the sides, I'm just going to make sure there's no oil left from my fingers. Then it goes into a semi-rigid. I like to pinch the semi-rigid and kind of pull back with my pointer so the card's not dragging on the sleeve as it's coming down. And there we go. Dan is ready to get sent off to grading. So let's pull up the pre-grade assessment I did for this card, go over it real quick, and then we'll quickly go through the other ones. So the front centering, I put it at 100. The back centering, I put it at 95, just because we were slightly out of tolerance. Then I take the front and the back and I average the two. So I think our total centering score is going to be right around 97.5. I kept the half in because I want to see if they round up or down, if there's going to be a half point in their average. Edges, I gave it 100. Corners, I gave it 100. Surface, I gave it a 95 because of that small little print line there, the small little print line here, and that very, very small dimple. I mean, it might be easily missed as well. So I might be being a little positive on the 95. It could get a 90. And the auto, I'm going to go with 100. I don't think there's enough difference in contrast that it's going to knock the grade down. So because of that, I'm going to keep it at 100 and see if my assessment's correct on that or if it will be dinged for it. So that gives us a total score of 392.5, which lands us on a 10 for the Mint authentication grading scale with an auto of 10. So that's Dan. Now with BTJ, reason I picked this card, other than it's going to look really cool in the Mint slab, is I want to see how Mint grades thicker cards. It's notorious with PSA that you very, very seldomly are going to get a 10. If you get an 8 for a jumbo patch card, you're doing very well with PSA. If you get a 9, you're great. If you get a 10, go get a lottery ticket. But this one looks really, really good. So looking at the pre-grade assessment for the front centering, I gave it a 90 because it is slightly shifted to the right. I think we were 55-45 on the measuring tool. Top to bottom was pretty much perfect. I think that one was a 50-50. And then on the back, this one was hard for me to determine the centering because there's no points of reference right to left. We can use the left side of the words, but what do you compare it to on the right? Because it's angled lines. There's no solid reference point that's straight. So I had a really hard time right to left. So if you have any advice on this type of back doing centering scores, please let me know. But I pretty much went with the left side of the letters and prayed that I'm going to get 100. I'm going to be just bluntly honest with you because I don't know what I'm going to get for centering on the back. But I did do top and bottom was 50-50. Top of the number box and then bottom of the Panini information box, and that was a 50-50. Could be wrong. If that's the case, get to learn from it. But then I turn these jumbo cards on the side and I like to see if there's any separation in the layers. If it's nice and pressed, there's no separation. Is it clean? Is there any dirt or grime that's along the edge of the card? And all of that looked really good. So other than that, did the same exact process that you saw on the first card, but pay extra attention to the edge on the patch window. This is where a lot of patch cards get yanked down on grades because this is a very thin section of cardboard, very easy to dent in, very easy to fray and cause some edge issues. And this one looked really good other than they might get me right here on the corner. It's hard to see, kind of see right there. Might be slightly indented, ever so slight. Now, the thing that I am concerned with this card is the auto itself. So the auto's clean other than the top of the T. You can see there's definitely that section where he kind of came off the pen a little bit early, but it's the sticker. The sticker is what I'm concerned about. So see if I can get it under light. But on the right side of the sticker, there's two right there. There's a scratch on the sticker. And then there is some kind of discoloration. I think it might just be a little wear. But I very gently try to get that little spot off, and it's not coming off, as well as to the left of the B. I probably could be a little bit more aggressive trying to clean these, but also I don't want to rub the ink, and I don't want to cause any issues. You can see there's another scratch right there. So I don't think the auto is going to get a 10 at all. But other than that, for the pre-grade assessment for the Bryant Thomas, I gave front centering 95, and I'm hoping the back is 100. Sorry about that. With a 97.5 average. The edges, I gave 100. The corners, I gave 90. Surface, 85. Auto, 80. So for the total score of the card, put us at 32.5, which puts us around the 9.5 grade for Mint authentication. And I gave it an 8 for the auto because of the condition of the sticker. We'll probably drop the grade a little bit more because of that small little indent on the corner. But I think I'm just going to leave it where it's at just to see my first gut intuition if I'm correct or not. So let's just make sure I didn't leave any fingerprints on that side. And with these very thick cards, it is totally acceptable to send them into grading in a one-touch. Because I'm not putting that in a semi-rigid. That's what's going to compress the edges and cause some issues. So this is going to stay in a one-touch. Now with the Tet, same thing. The Tet looked really, really clean. The front centering I got at a 50-50. The back centering is definitely left heavy. And I think this came out to be a 60-40 if I remember right. So I gave the front centering 100. I gave the back centering an 80 just because of how heavy it is on the left. But top to bottom was, I believe, 55-45. So top to bottom, not as bad, left to right, but it is definitely shifted to the right and a little bit up, ever so slightly up. That gave us a total centering score of 90. Now edges, I looked at this and the edges look phenomenal. The only issue with these base cards is the silver it attracts everything. Dust everything. So it looks really, really good though. I didn't see any dimples or divots or anything. I don't see any print lines on the front. But I did give the surface 90 because I think right here on the right side of this gold arc, I think it's a little bit deeper than the rest of the texture lines. I don't know if they're going to ding me for that or not, but I just kind of brought it down a little bit just to be safe. If I get a better grade, it's that much better. And then at the bottom here, there's right there, just a very, very small, maybe a micro scratch. I might even be able to buff that a little bit more before I even send it. But that's why I gave the surface of this a 90. And see, that's actually some dust. And then the back, I didn't see anything on the back. No print lines, no dimples. So back looked really good. Corners and edges, both gave those 100. So I gave this a total score of 380, which puts us at a 9.5. And then because of that small little scratch on the sticker, I bumped it down to a 9 for the auto. His auto looks really clean. Not a lot of changes. See if I can get this on camera. Very good, consistent stroke. It looks a lot more discolored right now on camera, but it's not in person. It's a very consistent contrast throughout. Might be a little bit light on this line. So I give it a 90. We'll see how we do with that. I'm actually going to get another clean sleeve for this one. Okay. So there is Tet. Put this back in the semi-rigid. I know this is a longer video, so if you've made it this far, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's do the DJ get-ins. This is going to probably be the lowest grade that we get back, anticipating it. There is an issue, little whitening, top left corner, little whitening, bottom right corner. The auto definitely has some difference in contrast. You'll see that real quick before we get to that. See right there? Very big difference in contrast. Little difference in contrast there. But the stroke is clean and consistent. No breaks in the lines or anything. There is a very small, very, very small print line to the right of his helmet. Incredibly small. So on the front of this card, I gave it a 90 because, once again, left to right, I kind of had a hard time figuring out centering. So I only used the right edge of the Absolute logo and the left edge of the rookie emblem. And that was within tolerance, but it was I put that at 50-50, but the bottom and top was where I was struggling because of the curvature of the lines. You kind of had to measure it right dead center to see how well it was centered, and it was slightly out. I think I gave it a 55-45 for the tolerance. So I gave the front centering a 90, and the back centering I gave it a 90 because it is slightly bottom heavy. You can see. And this was a 55-45 tolerance up to down, but it was well centered left to right. Edges for an Absolute card is probably one of the better ones I've seen. It's just some dust. There might be a little bit of whitening up here to the right corner, but you can definitely see there's the whitening on the corner there. There's whitening on the corner here. That's what we saw on the front of the card. So for the DJ Giddens, centering average was a 90. The edges I gave a 95. I actually could probably bring that edge down. I'm going to bring that edge down to 90. Corners, no, edges I'll keep 95 because that was dust. But the corners I brought down to 80. So 95 edges, 80 corners, surface a 95, and I gave the auto a 90. So the total score for this card was 360, which lands us at a grade of a 9, and then the auto of a 9. And I might be a little bit positive on that one, because those edges, I may get an 8.5, but should get a 9, I hope. So those are the 4 cards we're going to send off to get graded. So real quick on the last part of the video, just want to show you what slabs. We're going to crack these out. I'm going to clean them up and get them regraded. All right, and just like that, we have the order back. So let's see how we did on this pre-grade assessment. I'm actually really interested to see how close we may have gotten. I'm trying to figure out the grading process with Mint. So, as always, here's all of our shipping material back. And I think this should be my Devontae Adams. Yep. So unfortunately, Mint had run out of 75-point slabs. So instead of holding on to the card and waiting for the slabs to come back, they wanted to get the card back in my hand and just hold it. They sent me an email pretty quick, said, hey, we ran out of these slabs, but as soon as we get them, we'll let you know, send it back in, and we'll grade it free of charge because of the inconvenience, which I thought was really cool of them. So unfortunately, that one did not get graded this round. Let's get the rest of our business out. All right. Oh, they even sent my one touch back from the Brian Thomas Jr. That's awesome. All right. So the Brett Favre and the Jordan Love, I ended up not sending in to get regraded. So after I cracked out the Brett Favre from that diamond slab, it was going to get a 9, an 8.5 or a 9. So that was pointless to send in for regrade. And on the Jordan Love, I was questionable whether it was going to get anything higher than a 9. And the value of that card in a 10 is right around the grading cost. And I said, screw it. That's kind of a pointless deal. So I nixed those two out of getting regraded. But I still sent in the Josh Jacobs, which I think is this one. Now, we didn't pre-grade this one. I was just curious if we were going to bump up past a 9. And based off this, I don't think we did. Nope. So still got a 9. So from Arena Club to Mint Auto, or Mint Authentication, 9. So good consistency amongst the two companies as far as grading goes. No upgrade there. Now here is the Dan Marley. So before we look at the subgrades, we'll pull up the pre-grade assessment that we did, and we'll look at what we had. So on our centering average, we guessed it was going to get a 97.5, edges 100, corners 100, surface 95, and an auto of 100. And I gave this a 10 pre-grade and a 10 for the auto. So we got 100 on the edges, 100s on the corner, surface 95. We were dead on with that one. And centering, okay, so we went 97.5. I didn't know if the half would go down or go up, so it went up to 98. So we were pretty much dead on with all those, so we should get a nice 10 out of 10 on this, which we did. Sick. Awesome. I'm actually really excited that our pre-grade scores were pretty close to what they gave it. I'm really excited about that. I was hoping that this might get a diamond. I thought this was one of the best candidates for a gem mint diamond, but alas, 10 and 10, not going to complain about that. So then the next one, this looks like this is going to be our TET. Yep, here's our TMAC. So on the TMAC, we gave this a centering of 90, edges 100, corners 100, surface 90, and I gave the auto a 9. So I pre-graded this a 9.5 with an auto of 9. Now, so corners, we got 100. Edges, okay, I gave it 100. We got a 96 on the edges. Centering, okay, I actually underscored it a little bit. Centering, we got a 95, and surface, we got a 99. So I was a lot harsher on the surface, and then I was a little bit easier on the centering, or harsher on the centering, but I was easier on the edges. So a little off on those subgrades. I'm hoping this is actually a 10, so, and boom. So we got a Gem Mint 10 and an auto of 10. All right. So I was a little bit harsher on the grade. I was, like I said when we were pre-grading this, that I was kind of erring on the side of caution, and hopefully it was going to get higher, which it did. So now we got 2 gems with 2 autos of 10. I dig it. All right, so this is going to be... All right, so this was just the Genesis. We didn't pre-grade this. I just sent this in to go with my Genesis collection, and we got a Gem Mint 10. So this was actually, if you remember from my other Mint authentication grade reveal, this came with 2025 on the label. That's right. So I sent this one to get re-slabbed. So how the process went, I emailed Mint, and I let them know that the year on the label was wrong. I got an email within about an hour and a half. They said, hey, if you're planning on sending in a submission, just chuck it in there. We'll get it reslabbed for you. If not, let us know. We'll get you a shipping label. I said, no, I'm actually about to send in another submission. And they say, cool, just throw it in there with the rest of it, and we'll get it reslabbed for you. Sent it in. They reslabbed it. And that was, this was 10 days from the time that I sent it out till I got it back. So that included getting this reslabbed. So cool. We got the label accurate on this one, and that one's back. So now the next one's going to be the DJ Giddens. This was the absolute auto. And on the DJ Giddens, I gave this a centering of 90, edges 95, corners of 80, surface 95. I gave the auto a 90, so I gave this pre-grade assessment, pre-grade 9, and an auto of 9. So for the corners, we actually graded a little bit harsher. So we got an 85 instead of 80. The edges, we were dead on. The centering, I was a little bit harder on centering than what we got, so awesome. And then surface, we were dead on. So we were pretty much almost dead on accurate with the subgrades, which means, all right, we got a 9.5 and a 10. So I got a little bit better on the grade and definitely a better grade on the auto. So I was a half a grade off on the card and a full grade off on the auto. Not bad at all. Cool. We're doing very well. Which now leaves us with the Brian Thomas Jr. So here's the Jumbo RPA. On the Brian Thomas Jr., we gave this a centering of a 97.5, so I'm guessing 98 if we're close. Edges 100, corners 90, surface 85, and the auto 80. So I gave this a 9.5 for the pre-grade with an auto of an 8. So corners, 86. Okay, so I was a little bit off on the corners. I scored it a 90. We got 86 there. Edges, we actually got a little bit off on the edges, 97 versus 100. Centering, 98. So we were done on with centering. And then the surface, we were at 91. And I graded it an 85. So I was actually a little bit harsher on the surface than Mint. So I gave this, once again, a 9.5 pre-grade with an auto of 8. Cool. We actually got a 9.5 and a 10. So we were dead on with the card grade, and I was off on the auto grade. And with the auto, I was concerned with like the sticker itself, like the scratch on the sticker that wasn't on the card. But I thought his auto looked pretty clean. So I really wanted to see what their slabs looked like in these 130 points and see how they graded these cards. So far, we're pretty close on all of our grades. The T-Mac, I was off by a half grade. Dan Marley, we were dead on. off by a half grade on the Brian Thomas Jr., and then off by a half grade on the DJ Giddens. All in our favor. So I'm very happy with these results and really excited to see that the time that I'm spending on pre-grading, researching, and studying, how to pre-grade better is starting to pay off, because now my guesswork for what I think the card's going to get is pretty close to what we're getting back. And I call that a big win. So let me know what you think. Did you like this video? Do you like this type of content? If you want to see more of this, I definitely have some other cards that we can pre-grade and send off, see what we can do. So yeah, I appreciate you guys watching. Hopefully you made it this far. I know this was a long video, but until next time, stay blessed. Zen out.